Welcome to Cozy English Corner. I am Alex, and today we are sitting down to talk about a very specific anxiety that many English learners face. I am joined by Vivian.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It is a rainy and unexpectedly cold morning here in Columbus, so a cozy conversation is exactly what I need.
That is the Ohio spring for you. It feels like we experience 3 seasons in a single week. Speaking of unexpected pressure, you mentioned earlier that you experienced a moment of panic at work yesterday over 2 very small words.
Yes, I did. I work as a project manager at a logistics firm downtown. I was in a boardroom with senior directors presenting a major distribution plan. I needed to say that our new strategy would improve the connection, and then I froze. I did not know whether to say between the departments or among the departments.
I understand completely. What did you feel in that exact moment when you paused?
It is not just about forgetting a grammar rule. It is the fear of losing credibility. You work so hard to be seen as a professional, but when you stumble on basic prepositions, the insecurity rushes in. You worry they will think you are not capable of handling the multi-million-dollar contract just because your English is not perfect.
That is a profound way to describe it. It is the invisible weight of imposter syndrome. We carry this heavy burden of wanting to sound educated. So today, we are going to remove that burden by making between and among perfectly clear.
I am entirely ready for this. Please give me the rules so I can stop feeling nervous in my own office.
We will start with the fundamental principle. Use between when you are talking about 2 distinct people, places, or things. Use among when you are talking about a collective group of 3 or more, where the individuals are not specifically named.
So 2 equals between, and a larger group equals among. For example, I sat between my manager and the client.
Precisely. Now, how would you describe a situation where you feel comfortable with your whole team at a restaurant?
I would say I felt very relaxed among my colleagues.
Perfect. Now I want to share a fascinating piece of science that makes this impossible to forget. It involves how the human brain processes visual information.
Oh, you know I love the science behind things. What does cognitive processing have to do with grammar?
Neuroscientists have found that our working memory uses something called object tracking when we look at individual separate items. But when we look at a crowd, the brain switches to ensemble perception. It stops seeing individuals and just sees a texture or a mass.
Wait, that makes perfect sense. So between is for object tracking, where I clearly see the separate things, and among is for ensemble perception, where it is just a general crowd.
Exactly. This is also supported by the history of the language. The word between comes from Old English betwain, meaning by 2. The word among comes from an old root meaning to mingle or mix.
That actually relieves a lot of my anxiety. If I just think about whether my brain is looking at clear individual items or a mixed crowd, the choice becomes natural.
It does. However, there is a trap that catches many advanced learners. The simple rule says between is only for 2, but that is not entirely true.
I knew it. English always has an exception hiding right around the corner. What is the trap?
You can use between for 3 or more items, as long as those items are distinct, separate, and specifically named. It goes back to that idea of object tracking.
Could you give me an example? I want to make sure I process this correctly.
Providing practical application. Certainly. Imagine your logistics work. If you say, "We're trying to arrange a delivery schedule between Columbus, Cleveland, and Cincinnati," you must use between, not among.
Even though there are 3 cities? That is because they are distinct points on a map. My brain sees them individually.
Exactly. You are specifying the distinct relationships. You are negotiating a contract between the supplier, the carrier, and the buyer. They are 3 separate entities.
This changes everything for me at work. In that boardroom yesterday, I should have said, the agreement between the marketing, sales, and logistics departments, because they are distinct groups.
Yes, you should have. If you had said among the departments, it would imply a vague, undefined mixing of people, which is not what a formal contract does.
That is incredible. Let me practice the other side. When would I properly use among here in Ohio?
Think about our sports culture. If you go to an Ohio State football game, you might say, "I felt a great sense of energy among the fans."
Because the fans are a collective mass, I am not tracking individual faces. I am experiencing the crowd.
You have mastered the concept perfectly. Now, let us move to something very practical for daily conversation. I want to build a phrase pack for you.
I appreciate phrase packs. Memorizing blocks of language stops me from overthinking the grammar rules while I am trying to speak.
Exactly. Let us start with phrases using between. If you want to share a secret with someone, you say, "Between you and me."
Between you and me? I use that sometimes, but I always wonder if people say between you and I.
That is a common mistake even native speakers make. Because between is a preposition, it must be followed by objective pronouns. So it is strictly between you and me.
That is good to know. I will make a mental note to avoid saying between you and I. What is another phrase?
When you are forced to make a hard decision, you say you are caught between two things. For example, I am caught between pursuing my career and spending time with my family.
I relate to that completely. Working in the corporate sector here in Ohio, I often feel caught between professional demands and personal life.
It is a very human experience. Now let us look at among. When you want to say something is generally shared by a group, use common among. Like, stress is common among young professionals.
That is very useful. So I could say, burnout is common among logistics managers.
Exactly. Another wonderful phrase is among friends. It means you are in a safe, non-judgmental space. For example, you do not need to be formal here. You are among friends.
I like that. It creates a feeling of belonging. It is a very comforting phrase.
Language is powerful that way. Let us test your reflexes. I will give you a sentence with a blank, and you choose the right word based on how your brain processes the image.
I will do my best. I am picturing the brain tracking individual objects versus seeing a massive crowd.
First sentence. The small coffee shop is located blank. The bank, the pharmacy, and the post office.
They are 3 distinct locations. My brain tracks them separately. So the coffee shop is located between the bank, the pharmacy, and the post office.
Brilliant. Second sentence. The lost child was hiding blank the tall grass in the field.
Grass is a texture, a mass. You cannot count individual blades easily. So the lost child was hiding among the tall grass.
Outstanding. Let us do one more. There is a deep level of trust, blank, my 2 sisters and me.
That is 3 people, but we are specific individuals with distinct relationships. Therefore, there is a deep level of trust between my 2 sisters and me.
You have entirely conquered this. The hesitation you felt in the boardroom should be gone now. You understand the structural logic behind the words.
I truly do. It is amazing how much fear disappears when you replace uncertainty with a logical framework. I feel equipped for my next presentation.
That is the ultimate goal. Grammar should not be a weapon that makes us feel inadequate. It is simply a tool we use to build connections with other people.
Thank you, Alex. I think many professionals listening to this will feel a huge sense of relief. We put too much pressure on ourselves.
We certainly do. To everyone listening, if you have ever felt that boardroom anxiety, remember to visualize whether you are pointing to distinct items or looking at a crowd. Practice this week and speak with confidence. Until next time, stay cozy and keep learning.